Gentlelady yields back. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Costello, I'm over here on this end, sir.
Oh, thank you.
I want to distinguish something. It's extremely bad judgment to put an inveterate, well-known liar on the stand. It's bad judgment for a lawyer to do that because that person's subject to impeachment for his lies. That's true, right?
That is true.
Okay. And impeachment, for those watching, that's when you destroy the credibility of a testifying witness, right?
You do. You also destroy the credibility of the office,
Absolutely.
which is why I wanted to sit down with Alvin Bragg.
But there's another problem with doing that, isn't there? That is to say that the witness might give false testimony while on the stand. And that's something yet further is, how many lies did you testify Cohen testified to yesterday in New York court?
Well, I only read the section that involved me, and virtually every statement that he made about our interaction was false.
Okay. Alvin Bragg and his assistants prosecuting that case, they're lawyers, right?
They are, yes.
Can lawyers knowingly permit their own witness to testify falsely before a court?
Absolutely not.
Is that just a matter of bad judgment or something more?
No, it's a matter of ethics. It's required.
Are lawyers who do that susceptible to punishment for it?
They are susceptible.
If lawyers do that and they're doing so in the course of interfering with an ongoing presidential election, could they be subject to punishment for that?
I would think so, sure.
I noticed that today, in the course of this proceeding so far, not one Democrat has asked either of you a question and allowed you to speak to it.
I not only noticed that, but I noticed that after they take cheap shots, they leave.
Absolutely. Speaking of that cheap shot, Mr. Goldman, he's a great lawyer, by the way, so he knows not to ask you a question.
Well, we've had prior dealings, and I think he does know not to ask me a question.
I'm sure. But do you care to respond to what he suggested?
Well, he's suggesting that this is jury interference. First of all, I had nothing to do with the scheduling of this hearing. And second of all, nobody knew when Michael Cohen was going to testify. The prediction by the media and also by the prosecutors was that this was going to be a 5 or a 6 week trial. So according to that, Michael Cohen shouldn't be testifying for another week or two. So to claim that we're just doing this to interfere with the jury that's been instructed, of course, not to watch proceedings such as this, is ridiculous. Right. It's a cheap shot, and that's why I called it that.
Totally agree. And I'll just observe. When I was reading your statement, I noticed that you said you had been practicing law for 51 years. I said, wow, you're going to be old.
No.
What a great head of hair and great to absolutely have it all together. So, but you've been practicing law at a high level for 51 years. Mr. Trusty, next year, I think you said you were with the Justice Department for 27 years. Is that correct?
I was a prosecutor for 17 at DOJ.
Okay, prosecutor 27 years and 17 at DOJ.
So yes, I'm not as old as Bob.
No.
Thank you for that.
No one has attempted to lay a glove on either of you. How about Stanley Woodward? Has anybody, to your knowledge, challenged his sworn account of being extorted by Jay Bratt, Mr. Trusty?
No, but I also have no evidence of the department looking inward about it at all.
What indeed is the recourse? If this shouldn't come before this committee, as the members of the minority have said. What indeed is the recourse for this? Mr. Trusty?
I'm not sure. Certainly disqualification from the case, which would be a starting point here. And there should be a robust OPR investigation on the DOJ side. My experience with OPR, even in some of the worst accusations that were made to people in the department, was that they geared it to not make decisions until after the litigation was closed, which was very self-serving. I'm a little concerned that the public ramifications by way of OPR and DOJ's response might be years away.
That seems to be the problem. No one's ever held to account, and the process takes years and years and years and then ends in a whimper with somebody sending a report forth, and the problems just keep coming. I encourage those who are watching, unfortunately, I've only got about 30 seconds left, to read the last two. Actually, both of your statements are extraordinary. Anybody watching this hearing ought to pull those statements up and read them, word for word. They're magnificent, well drafted. And the end of yours, Mr. Trusty, in which you characterize where the Justice Department is and how much of a problem this is and how dangerous it is to the country, I think are maybe two of the most significant paragraphs I've read while I've been in Congress. and I encourage people to look at them.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. But I tell you, I appreciate your coming here. It is that on both cases, it is an act of service to the country. And I think the American people are wise to this. And I know how it's going to go. The only question is what comes next. How is this going to be dealt with in the next administration? Because be dealt with, it must be. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back.